Yeah, we have a discussion a lot that we shouldn't.
I'm not allowed to prep anything.
It's good to have a chat beforehand so that we get
Just
into
to,
the style.
loosen up a bit.
Yeah.
But we shouldn't talk about things that we want to talk about. Otherwise,
Yeah, what do you have for lunch? That's a good one. We start with that usually.
Uh,
Not on camera, in terms of just having a chat.
I had a jacket potato with beans and cheese, which you can't go wrong with.
Solid.
Oh, that's
But it is a bit solid
No,
as
no,
well.
no. It's all...
Welcome to CMS Unscripted, and in this episode we have our Chief AI and Innovation Officer, John Craske. Welcome, John.
Hey, Bram.
Linda's been hinting that I've been talking a little bit too much about AI in previous episodes.
No, it's just an AI bingo type thing. It's like,
Yeah.
how soon can we talk about AI? But this is in life general. But there's nothing wrong with that. It's a big topic.
No, but we have an excuse now because
Yes.
that is a big part. Is in terms of innovation, AI is still the big thing, right? Or is that one of the things that we're kind of focusing on?
Yeah, I mean, I think everybody wants to talk about AI. Our clients want to talk about it. Our people want to talk about it. It'll be interesting, won't it, to fast forward a few years and see if everyone's still playing AI bingo.
Yeah.
My gut feeling is it'll be more like the internet then. It's just there and we're using it. But definitely at the moment, it's a hot ticket.
What kind of excites you the most about AI?
I think it's that it gives everybody some tools to help them, do something different or do the thing that they already do differently, right in their, at their fingertips, literally. Yeah. I think that's the thing that excites me most, in a way that people maybe could have done before, but you had to be a bit deeper into the tech.
What kind of things are they? Are you talking about coding, or are you talking about what's kind of the specific things that you wouldn't be able to do before?
I think coding is coming, and for people listening to, watching this, you might have played with Claude Code or other things like that. But it's anything really. I think that's what's exciting about it. It's a new thing.
Yeah, and it keeps improving every month, really, doesn't it? That's
Is it
kind
that
of
fast, do you think?
We've started generating images and videos only like 6 months ago, I think, when we started. And when we first started doing it, it did some really weird things and it really didn't look realistic. If you generate an image now, it's very hard to tell that it is AI generated. And you can now do videos as well that look... who knows? Maybe this is AI generated, people.
It's not. This is truly unscripted people having a chat. You trained as a lawyer and I think practice. Tell us, how do you get a job like that?
A bit of luck and a bit of accident, I think. Like all our career moves. I was a real estate lawyer when I qualified, and then through a mixture of luck and an accident, I fell into. I've always been interested in how things work as well as the thing itself, and I'm not very good at remembering things. So having a mechanism or a process or something that helps me remember things, and that by that you kind of need to understand how something works to do that. I was always the same with maths and formulas and things. I could remember the way of working something out, but I'm not very good at mental arithmetic. That's kind of gone all the way through. And then when I had the opportunity to get involved in, at the time in Dundas and Wilson's sort of exit from Anderson Legal, then I was like, well, who's dealing with that? And what about that? And that led me to 10 years of dealing with IT and tech. And then Dundas and Wilson merged into CMS. And then it was getting involved in setting up the LSU and from there, legal project management and other things. So it wasn't one step when all of a sudden I had to apply for this job. It's kind of evolved and grown as the opportunities have come along.
I guess a few years ago, innovation as a job didn't really exist, or at least not in a law firm, right? It's only the last few years that has become a job.
I think that's right. And it's something that our clients expect now, which we perhaps didn't have before. But even before then, I was interested in how we were doing the work, and how we can make that easier for everybody and a better outcome. So that's just been a constant, really, I think, through my career.
There's a sort of process behind things, the innovation, but there's also like a little bit of imagination and magic and creativity. How do you get into like an innovative way of thinking? How do you do that?
Almost never magic, although it can look like that.
Maybe that's my version of it. Yeah, that's what you want it to look like.
I think some of it's practice and some of it's time, and I think the most important thing is being curious. And if you can be curious and ask yourself why, why am I doing this, or why am I doing this way? That always leads to interesting things. So, yeah, that I think it's just being curious or nosy or one of those words.
Yeah.
There's probably
Yeah.
also what I've found is that there's a social element. When we talk about creativity in my team, one of the things that we uncovered is it's very hard to be creative on your own. If you just think, okay, I'm going to come up with something new now or whatever, you can do, and there's a lot of lone geniuses. But there's it very often comes out of a brainstorm or a chat or like a meeting, and that's kind of where the real good stuff lives, right?
I think there's loads of ways. I think the good stuff comes out of there, and we've got some good examples of that we've done in the firm, like the Ignite stuff. We might talk about that in a little bit. But also, people must wake up. You must wake up, Bram, sometimes in the middle of the night and go, I know what we could do to solve X.
I wish.
You wish. But then
Do you wake up, John, thinking that sometimes?
Sometimes I go, I've figured out a way maybe we could do that. Yeah.
Excellent.
Not always. And then I wake up in the morning and go, I wish I'd written that down. So I know some people do that, like by the bed, don't they? But no, I think there's that as well. I think it's a little bit more than just having that idea, whether it's in a group setting or a social setting or by yourself. It's then taking the first step. Often the first step is the most difficult, but because then once you've almost talked to other people about it and you kind of got some momentum, then it's a little bit easier to explore that and take it to the next thing. But yeah, you have to do something with it as well.
And you're doing some stuff. You mentioned Ignite, which do you want to talk about that a little bit? Because that was also about going from ideas to actual things, right?
Sure.
And I've heard from some of the people involved in Ignite that there's even like talk about some spin-offs, and people have been made CEO of their own little project and that kind of stuff.
We've done some ideas generating campaigns before, and those have been quite good, and we've come up with some good ideas. People do tend to have a habit of coming up with an idea that aligns very neatly with their own pet hate. But this time we were much more explicit about the sort of things that we wanted, and much more generous in terms of the prizes.
So one second. So just for people that don't know, Ignite is a competition with innovation ideas.
Exactly. So CMS Ignite is a competition with two streams of ideas. So small ideas that kind of have to be things you've already done. So things you've already done that you could want to showcase, like use cases of things, with a heavy slant towards AI, but not exclusively. And secondly, a stream for big ideas, again with a slant to AI. And also we were looking for things which were client-facing or revenue-generating, or big efficiency savings. And we had over 400 ideas in both categories, and we had a lot more big ideas than we thought, and the quality of them was generally really good. So then we had to filter that down to 5 big ideas, and we had some runners up as well that we rewarded, but those 5 big ideas have gone into this boot camp phase. So it's like a mixture between The Apprentice and Pop Idol.
Yes, that sounds amazing.
Yeah, and this boot camp phase is, we've got a legal tech founder, who's mentoring the teams, helping them come up with prototypes. And also, I'm actually getting around to answering your question now, Bram. The important thing that we're doing this time we've never done before is if you're going to make a product, a thing, then there's so much more to it than just building it, right? If you're going to make a successful product, if IKEA makes a chair, right, or Heinz makes some beans, that there's much more to making a product around understanding the market and the target audience and the product fit, and then at the other end, the sort of commercial reality of taking a product to market, and how do you price it, and how do you go to market, how do you sell it, and I think we've never done that in these ideas campaigns before, and so that's what I think is something that's quite special.
You manage a lot of different teams, a lot of different skills. What's your sort of approach to leadership? How do you combine that all?
That's a really great question. I think it's important to give people space. You can set expectations and a strategy and stuff, but then people need space to be able to work and grow into. And you need to take people with you, of course. And so I very much like working with across the team and stuff. And I do struggle sometimes with. I often say things like, "Oh, maybe we could do this," and sometimes people then interpret that as John said we must do this, and that's not what I mean at all. So I quite often have to say to people, no, that doesn't mean you have to do it. It means I think about that and then throw something back at me. And what about this? So I try and sort of lead by example and be open and very human about it. But I don't know that I've got a better answer than that.
I think that's a very good answer. Are there people that you've worked with where you've seen great leadership or how that's felt for you?
Yeah, my favourite bosses over the years and people I've worked with have given me the sort of trust and space to do the thing that I wanted to do, and then supported with it, but not in a sort of direct holding my hand even sort of way, but been there when you needed, but otherwise more about sort of giving a sort of just deliberately making a bit of space so you can. That's the thing I've benefited from most, I think.
Yeah. I mean, I guess part of innovation, good innovation, is when things go wrong, right? So I guess there has to be that space for things to turn out differently from how it's planned, or for people just to experiment, right, and be creative.
Yeah, and that's something I'd encourage everybody to do. It doesn't need to be completely successful for it to be a good experiment. And I've used the word experiment nowadays because it implies that it might not succeed. And too often, I think, especially as lawyers, we think in a sort of risk-averse way that everything has to be correct. But when we're trying new things, not everything is going to be correct. So that giving yourself that sort of permission to try something out and then go, well, that didn't work, did it? And
I read a great quote recently about the only way you know you've learned something is if you've got it wrong.
Well, Thomas Edison said,
no, is it him? And
I haven't failed 1,000 times. I have found 1,000 ways that don't work, which is different, right? Which is then you've learned something out of that. Is there any experiment at the moment that is making you feel particularly excited?
CMS Ignite stuff has been one big experiment, and that's quite exciting. Sorry, we've got an innovation sort of funnel and process which the team look after, and there's interesting things going on in there all the time. It is difficult trying to explain to people that just because we're experimenting with something doesn't mean we're going to make it immediately, because there's quite often that hunger to do that.
One thing that comes up quite a lot when businesses talk about using AI more and more is the environmental aspect. And what's kind of your view on that?
I think, the first thing is to acknowledge that it's an important thing that we need to be mindful of and conscious of. But in the end, it's not really different from using our suppliers on anything else. We already are Microsoft customers. And one of the benefits of the fact that we work with Microsoft, and things like Harvey is largely built on the Microsoft universe as well, so is that Microsoft themselves are conscious of the environmental impact that they're making, and they have quite good data around the impact, and they're doing stuff to try and make sure that the power to their data centers is sustainable and the water is dealt with properly and other stuff. So, of course, and I think actually we've all got a bit of a responsibility to use AI responsibly as well, right? I'm not saying never ever have any fun with it, but if people are concerned about that, then using it for stuff that's useful and productive, I think is important.
I think there's also another side of that, which is one of the things that we're also becoming more aware of is not just the impact that AI is having environmentally in terms of all the extra consumption of energy, but also what is the energy that we're saving by using AI. So there's a whole other calculation there that's quite interesting. What are we not doing? And I mean, brighter minds than mine are trying to work that out at the moment. And how we calculate carbon and the data around that is really evolving, probably just as quickly as AI itself. But the main thing is, I think, just to be asking those questions, right, and to be being aware of it. So delighted when anyone asks any environmental questions, to be honest, so thanks. But yeah, I think being conscious of it.
Yeah, I think all of those things together, I think, is a part of the discussion.
I've got a different question for you, which is, how do you stay up to date on what is going on? Like, we talked about how fast everything's moving.
I wouldn't be able to,
Yeah, how do you do it?
It's almost daily.
And that's I often feel guilty that I'm not staying up to date
Okay,
enough.
so we the same as everyone else then.
As
Excellent,
everybody
that's good to hear.
But I think, like anybody else, I've got some good news feeds that I like and I trust. And then when I get some time, I sort of chase some of them down the rabbit hole and read them and then share some links and explore them a bit. So I think that finding sources which have been curated by, rather than having to do the curation all yourself, I think is part of it.
We're running out of time, unfortunately, but before we go, I wanted to know if you have any tips for people that want a career in innovation. If you're listening to this as a student and you're thinking about, okay, that actually quite sounds like a fun career. If I'd be a student now, I wouldn't know how to start a career in innovation, as it were. Do you have like a tip for them to get going?
There's lots of people who work across my teams who started off life either doing a law degree or something like that, or even being a lawyer for a bit, and then going sideways into something else. I don't know that going to university and doing something related to innovation is necessary. Well, there's more and more that's available to do with legal tech, for example, or project management, etc. So those things are there. I think it's once you get into a law firm, if it's a law firm that you're looking at, then looking for opportunities to get involved in innovation things as part of your job, I think is the best way in. There's nothing like understanding how something is done and why something is done, for then helping innovate around it.
Great. Well, thank you so much for your time, John. I'm sure with the way things are evolving, we'll have you back for another episode in a few months' time, and then see where the future has taken us.
Great.
Yeah,
Thanks
thank
for
you very
having me.
much.
Great. Thank you.